What if the biggest secret to success isn't grinding harder or pushing through obstacles, but actually changing how your mind perceives reality itself? Recent neuroscience shows our brains can't tell the difference between what we vividly imagine and what's actually happening.
That's fascinating. It reminds me of those studies showing visualization activates the same neural pathways as actually performing an action.
Exactly. And this ties directly into what Neville Goddard was teaching decades before we had the science to prove it. He wasn't just making philosophical statements. He was describing how our consciousness literally shapes our reality.
So how does someone actually put this into practice? Because there's a big gap between understanding it intellectually and living it.
Well, let me share something that transformed my own experience. I was stuck in this cycle of always feeling behind financially. You know, that constant stress about money? I started doing what Goddard calls living in the end.
Tell me more about how that worked specifically.
Instead of obsessing over my bank account, I began moving through my day as if I was already financially secure. I changed how I talked about money, how I carried myself, even how I planned for the future.
And what happened?
Within months, I had opportunities show up that I never would have seen before. A consulting contract, an investment opportunity. But here's the key. They were there all along. I just wasn't tuned to that frequency.
That's really interesting, because it challenges this idea that manifestation is about forcing things to happen.
Exactly. And research in quantum physics actually supports this. The observer effect shows that consciousness influences reality at the subatomic level.
Well, that just blew my mind a little bit. So we're literally changing reality by where we place our attention?
Think about it like this. Have you ever noticed how when you're thinking about buying a certain car, suddenly you see that model everywhere? Your reticular activating system gets programmed to notice specific opportunities.
That makes so much sense. It's like we're training our brain's filter system.
And here's where it gets really powerful. When you combine this understanding with emotional resonance. Studies show that positive emotions actually expand our perception and cognitive abilities.
You know, I experienced something similar with relationships. Once I shifted from seeking to becoming, everything changed.
Tell me more about that transformation. What specifically shifted?
Well, instead of focusing on finding the right person, I started embodying the qualities I wanted in a relationship. I became more present, more authentic, more vulnerable.
And that's exactly what the research shows about attraction and human connection. We attract what we embody, not what we want.
It's like that quote from Wayne Dyer. You don't attract what you want, you attract what you are.
You know what's fascinating about this whole approach? It completely transforms how we handle challenges. Instead of seeing them as obstacles, they become growth opportunities.
That's such a powerful reframe. How do you maintain that perspective when things get really tough, though?
I've developed this practice of asking better questions. Instead of, why is this happening to me? I ask, what is this teaching me? Or how is this preparing me for something better?
That reminds me of neuroplasticity research, how asking different questions literally creates new neural pathways.
And those new pathways become stronger every time we use them. It's like we're literally rewiring our brain's default response to challenges.
So what would you say to someone who's just starting to explore these concepts?
Start small. Pick one area of your life and experiment with this principle. Notice your current story about it, then consciously choose a new perspective. Watch what happens when you maintain that new vibration for 30 days.
That's such practical advice, making it manageable instead of overwhelming.
Because ultimately, this isn't about forcing change. It's about allowing ourselves to align with what we want to create. The universe responds to our energy, not our wishes.
That's really the key difference between wishful thinking and true manifestation, isn't it?
Absolutely. And when you understand this principle, you stop trying to control outcomes and start trusting the process. That's when the real magic happens.
What a powerful way to live.
And the beautiful thing is, it's available to everyone. It just requires a willingness to see things differently and trust in something bigger than ourselves.